Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and welcome. If you're watching this on the day it came out, the Dreamcast is now 22 years old. Happy birthday, Sega Dreamcast. A couple of qualifiers to that, of course, which is, the North American birthday, 9/9/99, which was such a big event for guys like me and a lot of my fellow retro gaming nerds out there. But yes, I'm very aware, obviously so, that the Dreamcast actually came out in November of '98 in Japan, making it nearly a year older than that. It's nearly 23 over there. And of course, the European birthday, I believe, was October of 1999, so it hasn't quite hit there either. But I want to celebrate the North American birthday, as I do every single year, just because I like to kind of go back, and it's my favorite console of all time. I like to go back and look at just kind of what's happened with it over the last year, which typically, if you're brand new to the Dreamcast stuff, you're like, what does that even mean? Like, what could have happened? Well, lucky for you, you're about to find out they actually still make new Dreamcast games. It's just that the games are not made by Sega or other major developers and publishers. They're made by indie companies that typically do this because they have a passion and they just want to bring a game to the Dreamcast, and I respect that. So I have a tendency to cover every single one of those games. Now, over the last year, there has been 4 releases. When I say that, I don't mean 2021, I mean since the last birthday. So really since September 9th, 2020, there has been 4 games. Now, one of them I cannot talk about much because I don't have it yet, nor have I made a video on it because of that, and that's Intrepid Izzy. This game was a Kickstarter game. I backed it. I look forward to playing it and showing it to you guys and talking about it, but I don't have it yet, so that's the extent of what I can do. But technically, this game just came out. I just don't have it in person yet, but yeah, wanted to include it. So, cool. I'll also put a link in the description to, at least I think, all of these. I'll try my best. I don't know exactly where you get all of them now, but I will try, and then you can hopefully support these guys if you want to. So, Intrepid Izzy aside, let's talk about the ones I do have. Now, the first game that came out within the last calendar year for the Dreamcast was Arcade Racing Legends. Now, I actually have 3 versions of this. I have the standard North American / Japanese variant, the special edition, or aka Road Trip Edition for the North American / Japanese variant, which really just means it includes a music CD, and the PAL European style version, which was a limited edition sold at only 3,000 copies. Now, what's the difference between all of them? Not really much of anything. It's cosmetic. The region coding is non-existent. They're all region-free discs, which goes without saying with all Dreamcast independent releases. They're always region-free. It's really about just which case do you like and which one would fit better in your set. And I'm imagining if you're in Europe or Australia, you'd probably go for this version. If you're in North America, you'd probably go for the NA version. And some of you out there will be that guy who's like, I want the Japanese one because the Japanese stuff always looks better. The real difference, though, in this particular case is that it has a music CD. The thing with this game is that I think this was the year where the Dreamcast is starting to round a corner. Now, the thing is, people have this common criticism with Dreamcast independent games, which is Dreamcast games are supposed to look like this, which is Power Stone and Sonic Adventure and Shenmue and so on. And then they play some of these indie games, and they're like, why does it look like a Sega Genesis game? This is not what a Dreamcast game is supposed to look like. Nah, nah, nah. I really hate that attitude. It's very, very simple. Budget. Those the first games I listed off were made by massive publishers with massive development budgets and whole teams behind them to facilitate the purpose of making a game with expectations of making and generating millions upon millions of dollars. That's not how it works with indie studios when it's a couple of guys working for basically no money out of passion. It's the same with independent film and independent music and so on and so forth. You're going to get that. However, one thing is starting to change, which is the cheap affordability of the technology in which to make games. See, I'm not going to say we're not going to get any games like that anymore for the Dreamcast. I'm just simply saying that we're now getting to a point where you're going to start getting, I think, more 3D content that is more similar to what you associate the Dreamcast with. Arcade Racing Legends is not the first independent Dreamcast 3D game. That was actually a game called 4x4 Jam, but technically that was a PSP game that was ported over. This was from the ground up, was made for the Dreamcast with the Dreamcast in mind. And that being said, it truly shows off that desire, that to be passionate about the Dreamcast. I mean, this game was a love letter to Sega's racing history. Things like Daytona USA, Sega Rally, and so on and so forth. Outrun. There's a whole bunch of like nerd approved themed cars that are like off brand, like a fake Batmobile, fake Ecto One, fake Time Machine DeLorean, and so on and so forth. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff in this game. I really quite enjoyed it. It was a little harder than I am capable of doing with a racing game because I'm not the best at racing games. But that said, I did quite enjoy it. And what I'm trying to say is about the technology. This one kind of proved that they're starting to get better at being able to make more 3D approved content for the Sega Dreamcast, with the Dreamcast in mind. Previous attempts like 4x4 Jam and Fade to Black were 3D-ish, but they were also ports from other pre-existing platforms. This was, like I said, from the ground up. So I respect that. Now this, if you were to compare it to a traditional Dreamcast game, would look a little rough. It would look very early, but not outside the realm of possibility. But we're getting there. That's all I'm saying, we're getting there. And to continue that logic, the next game we got was a game called Xenocider, which here I have both the standard edition as well as the collector's or limited edition, which again, same basic idea. It also has a music CD and all that. This was a really cool game. This was like a 3D run and gun game, and it was inspired by a whole lot of stuff. And I went over it in my video, but it reminded me of a lot of ways of Star Fox 64, where you once you beat a level, you have like two paths, and based on the way you beat the level, you go a different path, and so on and so forth. But the gameplay is very different than that. It's you're running along and you're shooting at stuff, and again, go watch the video if you want to see some of the gameplay. But it was very neat, and the music in this was fantastic. But the cool thing about this game is it was like in development hell for like 7 years, because they wanted a big budget relative for the Dreamcast indie scene to make this game happen, and they never got that budget, so they just said, okay, we'll do it anyway. It'll just take a lot longer, and they still made it happen, which I definitely admire them for. I believe at this point in time, this is the most ambitious Dreamcast game produced since the Dreamcast was relevant, marketably relevant. It's really quite something. I recommend this for sure. And this again says to me that the technology is getting there now, that we should be getting more and more games like this. I mean, they still take a while. I mean, this took 7 years. I know that Arcade Racing Legends took a couple of years as well. But the point is, it's getting there, and I see that we'll hopefully have a very optimistic future with the Dreamcast, because that's always very nice, even if it's just a couple of games. But keep in mind, the Dreamcast got more games this year than the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, the Wii U. Just saying. But the last one we got, the most recent one, prior to Intrepid Izzy, I should say, I really liked this game, and I gave it a lot of props for being ambitious, but it has a huge Achilles heel, and that game is the Textorcist. This is also the collector's edition. This one has music CD and stuff like that. This game, in concept, fantastic. It was kind of like House of the Dead, or sorry, Typing of the Dead, because you would actually use the keyboard as your primary controller, and the basic idea was you're playing as this priest, and you have to get rid of demons and fight them and stuff. But he does it by yelling things out of a Bible or whatever, and so when he yells stuff, you have to type what he's saying. Which I thought was very cool. Again, no Dreamcast game has used the keyboard in any meaningful way in 2 decades. And it also gave you the option to play with a controller in the very probable event that you didn't actually have the Dreamcast keyboard. So I played it for a while, and I thought it was fantastic, and I meant to get back to it, but I never did. And unfortunately, this game has a huge flaw, though, which I was informed of later. This game has a couple of bugs in it that make it, unfortunately, unplayable at a certain point. Basically, at certain boss fights are totally unwinnable with the controller. You just literally can't beat it. It just crashes. You can apparently get further with a keyboard, but there eventually reaches a point with the keyboard as well where there's certain boss fights you can't win. The game just crashes every time, which is really very unfortunate. This is, unfortunately, where modern game development tactics clash with the love of retro gaming, where we get these new releases. Because the modern gaming model is make the thing, release it. If it doesn't work, it's fine, patch it later. Well, you obviously can't do that with something like a Dreamcast game. So with a Dreamcast game, what made it so special is the games had to be done. They had to be great right out of the box. And that was a wonderful thing. And I hate this because of that. I hate that they did that. And unfortunately, I mean, this is not the first time that has happened. There was a version of, I think it was Ducks, did that, where the game came out and it was buggy. But to their credit, to HughCast's credit, and people don't like HughCast, they should. They did a lot of cool stuff. But to HughCast's credit, they said that was a problem. We fixed it. We made a new build. We pressed the discs, and they mailed them for free to everyone who bought a copy. It sounds like the people who made Texture Sys do not intend to do that, which is very shame on you. That's all I can say about that. I would tell you to support this one, and I know I did previously because I didn't know about that. So I apologize for that. But it's cool to have. But if that game was fixed, it would be a wonderful asset to the Dreamcast library. But because of that situation, it's just kind of a shameful moment. But anyway, so that's it for new Dreamcast games, and I probably should have talked about this earlier, so I'll just go out with this. This is the Adam Koralik themed Dreamcast. I just thought we should have one out here, and then I grabbed this one. This was made by a fan a while back. It's a custom Dreamcast tailored to me. It's an all black one, painted. It's got this cool big Dreamcast logo. The light is a blue LED. On the back, it has a VGA mod as well as region mods, a 3.5mm audio jack. And it's very, very cool. It's actually, there have been people who have made Dreamcasts that look just like this, and then they like post them on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, and it's the Adam Koralik Dreamcast. People have even made little 3D plastic versions of this and sent them to me. So I don't know really how that happened, but I appreciate it. So there you go. Dreamcast birthday. It's 22. Looking forward to 23 because that'll be Michael Jordan's number, of course. But anyway, yes. I'll put links in the descriptions to the games if you want to check any of them out yourself. Support them. That's always cool. Maybe not Texture Sys because of that, what I said. But yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you could please like, comment, subscribe. Check me out on the social media. Hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the Patreon, all that stuff. Please follow me on all those things. Appreciate you. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.